When can a binary mindset really serve you? I think this is really fun for me because I'm typically looking at how can we take things that may have only one or two options and find the nuances in it, increase the range, check out the spectrum. We're talking about distinctions as we go along here. So typically, I'm looking to see how can I give you even more options than just two. And sometimes, as a tool, I love to explore looking at the binary option. Comes up a lot in my coaching as well. I think some really great example of this is with the imposter syndrome. So a number of my clients will come out and they'll talk about a new thing that they're bringing to life because that's what we work on. We help you bring out what you wouldn't normally bring out on your own. And there's a feeling that comes along with it of an imposter syndrome. Am I going to be found out that I'm not actually at the level that I'm aiming to play at? And usually the conversation starts where they're trying to work their way out of feeling like an imposter. And instead, on my end, I like to play this, and this is part of the value of intuition. Um, I like to look at it and say, well, if you're going to be an imposter, like you might as well get the most out of it. If you're going to be an imposter, be like, go full in, like don't hold out, like really go for being the imposter. But I think that's where the binary condition ends up working for us powerfully. You see, in the binary state, it's on or it's off. Either you have it or you don't. And there aren't any gradients that are associated with it from an identity perspective. If you're looking at something from yourself in the binary state, then there are some ways to be able to leverage that in a way that can continue moving you forward. So going back to the example of the imposter, the tool there is really playing with the idea of if you already feel that what you're doing might present you, or you might be found out as being an imposter, then you don't want to get caught, quote unquote, for something minuscule or at the very beginning of your comfort zone. If you're going to be called out as an imposter, if you're afraid of that taking place, then you might as well make it count. It's almost like, are you going far enough? When you find yourself in a binary situation, are the elements that end up really creating more space is like, are you taking it far enough? Ooh, right now I am thinking I had some other examples that were coming to mind, but I'm going to use this one here because it's the edgiest one for me. It's not the one that I feel the most comfortable sharing. And so that's where we have to go with it, right? Not because it's edgy for me and I wanted like there's something in the absolute version of it, but in the relative element of it. Right now, I'm good with being an imposter, so that example comes off easy. However, for you, whatever you might be looking at to really explore as your binary condition, uh, that might be something that actually has a lot more tension for you. And I think in the second part of really going through the transformation journey here, we have the discover phase, we have the appreciate phase, the experiment, and then leverage. The appreciate phase is when we're in that like when we don't necessarily know how to be with it. And so I want to make sure that I acknowledge that and use that for all of our purpose. I might have also been stolen there. So here goes the deal. As I have been uh, showing up more and more as a trailblazer and finding out my own journey is around liberating myself from a repressed state of being able to create success, a very narrow window as to what I thought success could look like. I've been finding myself speaking up and being more active in different types of movements, global movements, and calls for justice. And this has been happening over a number of different years. And in a conversation I had with a friend and peer, I brought up the fact that I'm afraid of being considered a radical. And we had a whole conversation about that. So in this regard here, being thought of as radical is a binary for me. I'm like, either I'm not considered a radical or I am. So as part of my process, as I go through the appreciate stage of things, I discovered that it was uncomfortable for me to be a radical. And I was also challenged on like, how can you change anything meaningfully if you're trying to play within the narrow window of not being a radical or doing radical things? It's been messing with me. So I brought that up in conversation with another friend who's really into social impact and systemic change. And he brought something up that really played with my mind. As I was bringing up, like, oh, I'm afraid of being considered a radical. What do you think about that? He's like, oh, I understand that, but the question's a little bit different in my mind. The question I ask myself is this radical enough? Am I being radical enough? And all of a sudden, the space opened up. You see, in the binary area, he had gone beyond, if I'm going to be considered radical, have I gone far enough? Have I been radical enough? And in that space, it's actually that entire question, that binary element, all of a sudden exploded, it expanded once again for me. And then there's range and nuance and so forth beyond that. But at its core, it goes back to this element here. Well, if it's a binary decision for you, then are you making the most of it? Ended up coming out to Singapore, having already built a business and was working on various elements while also working full time. And when we decided to move out to Singapore, I'm like, well, we're changing locations. We're moving away from our family. Like, things are going to be really different as it is. So why not make it just a little bit more different? And I decided to go full time into entrepreneurship. It's this element here of, if you're going to cross the line, might as well make it count. And I'll end this here with that element of the question here, the question that was posed to me. For me, it was around the uncomfortable feeling of being considered a radical. And what opened up even more space for me was, am I being radical enough? What's your variation of a question like that? If you're thinking about being an imposter, like, if you're going to be considered an imposter, is it going to be for something really worth it? What's your variation that can give you even more space to play in that binary stage and then take things even further? So over the next 24 hours, I want to give you a chance to play a little bit differently, to get into the binary. What's the thing? And I like to look at it from a piece of your identity, or a way that others might consider you if you were playing at your next level, or if you're even just being more visible in terms of what was really true and real for you. If we consider that to be a binary state, something that you're avoiding trying to be seen as, what would it be like for you for the next 24 hours to play with the question, if I'm going to be seen as this way anyway, how can I make the most of it? And I invite you to play with it in your mind and take it even further by testing it out and experimenting it in real life. And if you're looking for a place where you can experiment and stretch on a regular basis, come join us in the collective. If that's a new idea for you and you're like, I just need an experience, I need to see what it's like to really stretch out of that space, then come join us in the Trailblazer Tribe, which is our free community where we come together and really continue the conversations of the distinctions and get to really experience what it's like to show up more powerfully in every single thing that we do. We have ongoing gatherings where you can come in and meet some of the other Trailblazers, and also have an opportunity to work with me directly for an experience that would really transform you. So we'll leave it at that. If you're interested in having an experience of this for yourself and continuing the conversation in a meaningful way, go to niiamah.com/tribe. That's NIIAMAH.com/tribe, and come sign up and see us in our upcoming gatherings. Until then, I want you to remember something. You got this, and we got you. Journey on. Hey, Niiamah here. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, and then go ahead and leave one of your insights from today's video in the comments below. If you're looking to take this deeper, you can go and watch another video, or you can go to niiamah.com/tribe to get exclusive invitation to our tribe member only events. I'll see you soon.